throwing dollars at different things, we've also been able to use our W-2s to fuel our company and our businesses. And I think that's one of the things that people don't really talk about too much. It is so incredibly hard to, that's I think why most small businesses fail in the first 5 years is they run out of money. So me continuing to keep my job has allowed us to, first off, funnel money back into the business, but also give me peace of mind a little bit. And I also love my W-2.
If it doesn't work out, or if it didn't work out, my worst case scenario would be my previous everyday or everyone else's everyday, right? So I'm very much like, hey, I'm going to bet on myself. I'm going to bet on us. I'm going to take the chance here. And I think that the autonomy and freedom of time has allowed me to get more creative and allowed me to dial in like, hey, what's the direction that I want this company to go? And how can I block off time so that we can get it going and moving in the right direction? And Rye, having a child and having a little bit more like quote unquote responsibility on the back end, like we decided that, hey, if the vision for us is united, that's the most important thing between partners, is the vision united. You know, we can figure out the integrator and the visionary stuff, but if the vision's united, then we can divide and conquer, and he can work on back end systems and work at off hours, and then I can focus on in the business. And that is how we decided, like, hey, I'm going to take this leap, and Rye's going to maintain. And then there will be a point in time where we're both doing it full time. But for the first 9-10 months, depends on the month, but it's worked out pretty well so far. And we're going to maintain that.
The world and the matrix, if you will, they're like, there's got to be a better way. And I think some people will take a huge step back dollar wise to take a huge step forward in freedom.
Welcome, millionaires and future millionaires. You're listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast, a show where you'll hear the stories and interviews of everyday millionaires. We'll unveil their decisions, their strategies, and their portfolio allocation. Now to your host, Jace Mattinson.
Welcome back to another episode of the Millionaires Unveiled podcast. This is episode number 424.
This is the podcast where we dive deep into the inspiring stories of self-made millionaires from all walks of life. We are your hosts, Jason and Stacy, and each week we uncover the strategies, setbacks, and turning points that led these individuals to financial freedom. Whether you're just starting out or looking to level up your wealth building journey, join us as we share the secrets and wisdom from those who have built their fortunes from the ground up. Get ready to learn, be inspired, and take actionable steps towards your own success.
Listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast with my dad, Jace Madison, and my mom, Stacy Madden.
Today, we've got Cory and Ryan. In fact, this might be the first time that we've had business partners on the podcast. Do a little $1 million holler. Got net worths just over $1 million, one and then 1.2-ish. And gonna be a great episode. You may know them. They actually run a podcast called The Wealth Juice and have various brand equity around that. And most of their investments and net worth is in real estate. Been real estate investors, but also have the business and heavily invested in the market as well. So, going to be a great episode with them. Definitely dropped some knowledge bombs on us. And really enjoyed sitting down with the two of them and having both of them kind of reveal their net worths on the show. So, going to be a great episode today. If you'd like to be on the show, send us an email, millionairesunveiled@gmail.com. As always, we're looking for new, great, entertaining guests who are willing to share their stories. This fall schedule is open. And without any further delay, let's get right into the episode.
Cory and Ryan, do you want to just give us your background and what you're up to now?
Yeah, man. So thanks for having us. We appreciate it. Ryan and I are, I guess we would consider us real estate investors. We've become content creators, but we're real estate investors in the Philadelphia area. Ryan and I met back in college. We went to Temple University in Philadelphia. We met back in college, kind of knew there was always a little bit more than like the 9-to-5 grind, 9-to-5 life. So we decided we got the real estate bug. I started out house hacking. Ryan and I partnered up, me and him, started buying a couple properties in Philadelphia, New Jersey. And, we started our social media platform, our podcast, and our real estate company at the same time, and grew it to just over 80 units between Ryan and I and some partnerships. And that's that's like the 25-second story of like how we got into some things. I'm happy to dive a little bit deeper, but that's kind of like we buy real estate. That's what we do. And we teach others how.
Ryan, do you have anything to add to that? It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, Corey usually takes our elevator story and nails it, but no, nothing too more in depth. I can go into the weeds if you'd like, but I think just maybe a little bit more painting the picture. Corey and I lived together after college, and then we ended up working for the same company together. And we would come home every night. And we're like, man, there truly has to be a little bit more to life than just go and grind and punch the clock every day. And we see people driving the nice cars, the big houses, and there's a lot to that. But we started studying the FI movement, the financial independence, retire early, the FIRE movement. And then we started looking into like, how do we become uber wealthy, right? And then real estate was the first thing that popped up. We were like, let's get into this, but we don't have to recreate the wheel. Let's find a strategy that works for us. And I think Corey really was the inception of this. I saw him buy his first duplex, and I was like, dude, this was after we had moved out from each other. I bought my primary residence, moved in with my now wife, and he started investing in real estate. I'm like, dude, this is awesome. You made an income stream for yourself. Like, let's do the thing together. And so we decided to buy property together. His idea was, hey, to amplify this thing, let's start a podcast. The world shut down with COVID, and that's really kind of where our story really amplified. And instead of just kind of doing nothing and play video games all day, pretty much like a lot of our friends were doing, we were like, let's start a podcast. Let's share our journey. We were huge fans of Bigger Pockets at the time, right? And that's where we were hearing everything about real estate investing. And what we thought was lacking out there was people sharing their story to reaching $1 million, if you will, right? And that journey to becoming a millionaire. And so we wanted to document our story from where we were all the way to where we are today. And we've eclipsed that $1 million mark. We've built a significant real estate portfolio, a lot of connections along the way. I think the biggest thing, or one of the most important things that we're proud of, is the network, man. Like, to be able to have conversations like with guys like you and other people in the space and people that have reached this level of quote unquote freedom. It's been amazing to network and really build a brand. And that's where we've kind of landed. Now we educate others on how they can do the same, break free the cycle. And, there's a little bit more to life than going to the 9 to 5 every day.
Good for y'all. And I can't wait to get into some more of the details on the real estate journey because it's always interesting and unique, especially post-COVID world to get into that. But before we do, you mentioned your millionaires. What's the net worth today between the two of y'all?
All right, Ryan's got to start at the top. He's a little bit higher than me. I think we're very close, but go ahead, Ryan.
Oh, is it combined? I don't know. Corey tracks this way more in depth than I do. Just like maybe like 1.2. That's where I'm at. 1.1, 1.175. There we go. We'll give you that.
Yeah, I just crossed the million, and I would jokingly said, Jace, before we started recording, that if hopefully the stock market doesn't go down a couple percentage points, because I'm right there, I'm right on the cusp. So that I just got there, and that's why reaching out to be on the show, I was like, we're technically on that side of things. And as a lot of people know, once you get to this position, like, it's a lot easier to grow it than it is to get from that 0 to 1 million. Right now, it's like that kind of the fun begins as we've put processes in place, and you compounding interest, you put fuel on the fire, and that's the name of the game. That's what we're excited about going forward.
And how is that broken up? Is it all real estate, or do you got some other investments? You mentioned the market going down 2%. Corey, do you have some market, or Ryan, or both of y'all?
Yeah, I can start with this. So, I mean, I say kind of tongue in cheek, but I would say 80% of my net worth is in real estate. So, that is between our primary residences, our real estate that we own in New Jersey together. I have a property in Tampa, Florida. Ryan and I are general partners on an 18 unit, a 10 unit, a 43 unit, and a 7 unit that we've created relationships with some great operators. So Ryan and I own a percentage of those projects. Between that and then outside of the 80%, the rest of the 20% would just be, I have a SEP IRA, I have a brokerage account, some crypto that I've been adding in, especially Bitcoin recently. So, and then cash savings. That is how I would say like 80%, 15% on the other stuff, and then 5% in like cash. And that's the my breakup. I think Rye's a little bit different. He's probably a little bit more stock heavy. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more on market heavy. I think 65, 35 is probably the split for me. 65 real estate, and everything else under that 35. That's a mix between the market and crypto for sure.
Talk to us a little bit about, I mean, you've created this business together, but yet, allocation, Ryan, in particular, is that just because of things you did early on? Or do you kind of have a different mindset of, hey, I want to do real estate and I like real estate, but I also believe in, putting some in some different asset classes?
Yeah, I think the word diversification gets there's pros and cons to that a little bit. I think there's something to going all in on one thing, and then there's also spreading yourself too thin. So there's like I'm trying to find a happy medium there. But I think the easy thing to say is I maxed out my 401ks, my Roth IRAs, and then dabbled into a brokerage account early on, like as soon as I got my 9 to 5. So I just started investing heavily, and so that's stacked up over the last 10 plus years. Because I made sure that I wanted to, that stock market was first, and then real estate came, right? And then we kind of got heavy into that for like the last 5 years, and then in the last 2 to 3, more into crypto in general, but very much Bitcoin, and that's where I'm seeing a lot of the future too. I want to have at least at some point 10% of the net worth in there, at the very minimum, and so it's just I think there's a lot of ways to play the game, and for me, what we found is with real estate, it's amazing, but a lot of times your money's stuck in the dirt, and you have to use the strategic tools with real estate to really make an impact and live it with now money. A lot of it, I think the toughest part of this game is you get into real estate and then it's 30 years down the line, you start using, your monopoly piece, right? You sell the property, you make a ton of money, and then, you live your life at that point. Whereas the cash flow just kind of covers the bills a lot of the times. But for me, it's we've pulled HELOCs from specific properties, lines of credit, and to just have found ways to scale and amplify our portfolios, and dabbling some of that money, whether it's into a new project, real estate front, or dumping some of that money into the stock market, and then also into crypto and all these things. And we try to have, I think, in terms of savings, not really savings, but the emergency fund, that can be a number of different ways. I also dabble into infinite banking and overfunding whole life insurance, and that's allowed me to leverage pretty significantly too, to get into other properties and other things. So it's just it's all one big flywheel that we try to divvy up.
Corey, what about you? Are you kind of committed to real estate through and through, or do you look at diversification in a similar light that Ryan does?
Yeah, I think it's so the unique part of our story is that I'm running our real estate company and our mentorship program full time, and Ryan has his W-2 job, right? So we strategically did that at a position. September actually coming up in a year when I left my full time job that I was in sales. So Ryan has his allocations a little bit different because he's able to have a 401k match, and he's able to, like it's a little bit more steady, where I have the ebbs and flows a little bit. But I think for me, what I do is I have a certain amount of dollars, that go into the market every month, regardless of anything, whether that's 500 or $1,000, like every single month it's going into between my SEP IRA, between my brokerage, and between the crypto, where that's inched up to that, like 100K plus mark. And now it starts to compound and work for me, where I don't have to feel like I have to emphasize on putting as much into that. The rest of the dollars that I have are going into our real estate project. So I think for me, it started out where I started out house hacking. I bought that 3-bed, 2-bath. I went from paying $1,000 a month in rent to living for free. So I was able to start to stack the equity in my property, that first property, then the cash that I had saved because I was able to live for free into the next duplex. I started buying real estate a couple years before Ryan did. And that's when, it started to compound in the real estate game. And then, Ryan and I have had some properties that we've sold. We sold a property. I rolled it into another property, like real life monopoly. I took it into a property in Tampa. So I look at it like, hey, every single month I'm putting money into the market, whether that's crypto, whether that's ETFs, regardless. And then the leftover money that I have is going into our real estate portfolio, whether that's another general partnership that we have with one of our operators, whether that's a property that Ryan and I are buying. But it's not like we're buying properties every single month. We're being very strategic about it. And, the world is shifting very quickly. So I want to be diversified, but not, like Ryan said, spread too thin. So I would say that that's how I got to be heavily into real estate. And then now it's, okay, I want to make sure I'm padding my stock market and the crypto as well. I got a late start to that more so than he did.
Awesome. You brought up leaving the W-2, which I feel like is a common conversation I have with, those that either start a side hustle and it grows. And I'm curious, given that one of you's made that decision and one hasn't, can you walk us through kind of what led to that? And Ryan, in your case, why still sticking with the W-2?
Yeah, sure. Do you want me to start here, Corey, or you want to take it?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. As small business owners, I think people, if you're listening, you're an entrepreneur, you understand the ebbs and flows of cash flow, and like some things are working in marketing one day, and then another day they're not working. And so for me, there's we're in different places, right? I'm married with a child, and Corey is recently engaged, but just different like lifestyles at the current moment, and it's allowed us, like, he has a little bit more flexibility in his days, in certain things. So for me, I'm semi hit with the golden handcuffs a little bit, where it's like, hey, I have a steady income, definitely over six figures, have great benefits, all these things, and wanting to do these big life events where, like, you buy the big house, you have your insurance covered and all this stuff. Having that dialed in on a daily basis and have that chunk like already covered allows us to fuel money into the business, right? So like outside, I think is interesting. We were talking about the flywheel here and like throwing dollars at different things. We've also been able to use our W-2s to fuel our company and our businesses. And I think that's one of the things that people don't really talk about too much. It is so incredibly hard to that's I think why most small businesses fail in the first 5 years is they run out of money. So me continuing to keep my job has allowed us to first off, funnel money back into the business, but also give me peace of mind a little bit. And I also love my W-2. So that's one of the things. It's not like I'm like itching to leave it right now. I feel a sense of purpose behind it. I really enjoy the people that I work with. But, I think at some point we'll have that conversation like, hey, when's the time for Ryan to leave? But it's allowed Cory to have a lot of ownership within our business and make decisions and run it full time, and full tilt. Now he can get into, kind of the reason we decided that he would leave his job and kind of pursue it first. But that was last September when you took the move.
Yeah, I can just add a little bit here. I think part of it is like where we were positioned each in our lives. I mean, I left, I had a girlfriend at the time. Now we are engaged, right? But I have like a low cost of living. I don't have children. So I was like, if I'm going to do this and I'm going to go all in on this thing, it wasn't going to grow just us maintaining our jobs, right? But if I'm going to go all in on this, I think now's the time. And I'm a very risk reward type person. And, like if it doesn't work out or if it didn't work out, my worst case scenario would be my previous everyday or everyone else's everyday, right? So I'm very much like, hey, I'm going to bet on myself. I'm going to bet on us. I'm going to take the chance here. And I think that the autonomy and freedom of time has allowed me to get more creative and allowed me to dial in like, hey, what's the direction that I want this company to go? And how can I block off time so that we can get it going and moving in the right direction? And Rye having a child and having a little bit more like quote unquote responsibility on the back end, like we decided that, hey, if the vision for us is united, that's the most important thing between partners is the vision united. We can figure out the integrator and the visionary stuff, but if the vision's united, then we can divide and conquer, and he can work on back end systems and work at off hours, and then I can focus on the business. And that is how we decided like, hey, I'm going to take this leap and Rye's going to maintain. And then there will be a point in time where we're both doing it full time. But for the first 9-10 months, depends on the month, but it's worked out pretty well so far. And we're going to maintain that.
That's cool. Appreciate you all sharing that. So
Yeah.
let's back up. You mentioned a little bit, hey, working the 9 to 5, graduate college. There's got to be more. I mean, what walk us through kind of, hey, let's line up that first deal, bet on that first deal, and kind of walk us through the subsequent deals that maybe took you, Cory, to last year where it was, hey, enough cash flow, enough operational leverage, et cetera, for me to walk away at this point.
Yeah, I can give you the long and short. So basically, Ryan and I were doing what a lot of people do in real estate investing. We were saving up our own capital and deploying into deals, saving up our own capital, deploying into deals. And we were a long-term buy and hold investors in the Philadelphia and South Jersey area. So we would, I bought that primary residence that was a house hack that I was living for free. I then bought a duplex for $125,000. It was cash flowing $300 a month, nothing to write home about. But what happened is, Jace, is that I was able to fix up the property a little bit over time. And I put the property on the market because I saw another opportunity come up, and I was able to make $100K in 3 years of profit. And I thought, how long is it going to take me at my full-time job to save up $100K? It would be longer than 3 years at the rate that I was saving money. So I was able to take those funds and roll it into a larger project that had more cash flow, that had more appreciation. Ryan and I started partnering together, again, saving up, finding properties that were some were on market, some were off market. We created relationships with lenders, with lenders, with lawyers, with title people who own title companies, like all in this little ecosystem in South Jersey that were able to bring us deals. And then the podcast amplified our voice and people started to know, like, and trust us. So we were able to get into deals where with operational partners with boots on the ground, and Ryan and I were able to raise capital and be that investor relations, the marketing, the underwriting arm of a business that was already in place, where we had a partner who was looking for the funds and we were looking for the deals. And that's how we were able to meld this together. And that is how we were able to expand. We got to like 8 units between the two of us. And that's how we were able to expand to that. I mentioned 80 units because we partnered on the 7 unit. We raised some capital, partnered on a 43 unit. That's a boutique hotel in the Pocono Mountains where people go and it's rented out as a short-term rental for cabin feel. In the winter, it's like snowboarding and skiing. And in the summer, it's like lake vibes, right? And then we just recently partnered on an 18 unit and a 10 unit. So I felt that, hey, did I have enough cash flow that was paying all of my bills, like completely covered? The answer was actually no. But the bet was that, hey, we had a lot of people reaching out to us. We've built this podcast over a period of time. Our goal was to teach people how to get started in real estate investing because I know how much that first deal like changed everything for me. So in September, when I decided to leave, we had some cash flow coming in. A lot of these are long-term projects, so the cash flow is upticking every single year. But I had enough where I was saying, okay, you know what I want to do? We want to teach people how to buy their first rental property. It changed our lives. How do we do this? So our mentorship and coaching program, combined with the rental income coming in, allowed me to be like, you know what? I have enough that I can at least eat and sleep and breathe. Let's take this dive in. And now we teach people how to buy their first. And especially if you're in the Philadelphia or New Jersey area, Ryan and I have a complete network where we basically hand people, hey, this is how you can buy your first house hack, or this is about how you can buy your first rental property. Because for us, that first deal was just once we learned the system, we were able to plug and play and, buy more after that. So hopefully that answered your question.
When I first started this podcast, I felt like I was juggling 100 hats at once. Scripts, recording, editing, branding. Honestly, it was overwhelming. That's the reality for anyone starting something new, whether it's a podcast or a business, and that's where Shopify comes in. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses worldwide, powering 10% of all e-commerce in the United States. From household names like Mattel and Gymshark to entrepreneurs just getting started, Shopify is the built-in business partner you wish you had from day one. You can launch a beautiful store in minutes and hundreds of ready-to-use templates. Supercharge your content creation with AI tools that help write product descriptions and enhance images. And market like a pro with easy email and social media campaigns. Plus, Shopify's expertise covers everything from inventory and shipping to handling returns. So if you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. Turn your big idea into with Shopify by your side. Sign up today for just $1 per month at shopify.com/unveiled. That's shopify.com/unveiled. And thanks again to Shopify for supporting today's episode.
Question.
Yeah, no, that's great. And, talk us through a little bit if you don't mind, because I feel like a lot of people have this struggle of like, hey, you went and did this W-2 thing, it's comfortable, get your salary, your benefits or whatever. You are leaving, you don't have all your bills covered, but you're betting on having the bills covered based on being able to put more time, effort, energy, etc. I mean, did you do anything from an emotional standpoint to get ready to make that jump? Did you have a certain level of cash in the bank? Like, hey, I've got 6 months to survive if this really went awry, or kind of walk us through that point in time that led to that.
Yeah, this is a good question. And the mindset is like an ever changing, like as an entrepreneur, that is probably the most important thing that I found in recent weeks and months. That has to be like your head has to be on straight, because if you expect things to go well all the time, you're just betting in the wrong game. Like it's just not how it's going to work. So what I did personally is I said, okay, my expenses were low. I was house hacking in that property. Once I stopped house hacking, I was living there by myself. My fiance has since moved in. My mortgage is pretty low. Like I still have a $1,500 a month mortgage on the property I bought in 2018. So my thing is like pay off my car, keep my expenses low. I don't spend a lot of money. I need to live in this zone right now so that I'm not over leveraging myself, so that I can afford my own lifestyle. And it doesn't take that much money to do that. So that was the first thing. Okay. My mindset is worst case scenario, I'm not spending a ton of money. Now I like experiences. I like traveling. Like I like spending my money on those things. Having a Mercedes or a BMW, like that's a future thing for me. I like cars, but I'm not over leveraging. So first thing I did is I lowered my expenses and I lowered my expectations and said, how long is this going to take me to get this thing off the ground? once I had that covered and I could get it to a comfortable level, I said, okay, now we can put fuel on the fire. We can dump more money into our business. And then from there, it was just about being strategic with Ryan and I, and like allocating the dollars correctly to being able to say, all right, we need to put money in this bucket. We need to put money in this bucket. But I will say, Jace, what happened is the monthly investing and the monthly allocations to each of these investing accounts had to shift for me. And I was in a position where I was normally like, okay, I put X amount per month, like every single month. And now I'm like, okay, maybe I should dump more money into the business. So that was probably the biggest shift where I was like, oh, is my compounding going to change? Because Rye knows every single month that he has a 5% or 6% match and all of that. So that was probably the biggest mindset shift where I was like, okay, this is going to be a little bit rocky for a period of time until we can get our feet underneath us. But the biggest thing overall, 100%, was lowering my expenses to a point where I felt like I could handle any downturn or anything that came negatively and not over leveraging yourself. I think that's where people lose in the entrepreneurship game, is taking too much money for themselves and feeling like they've made it prior to making it. And you create these habits that carry on. And then, that old saying is like, if you can live off 50 grand and make 100 grand, then you can live off 50 grand and make 200 grand. You can live off 50 grand and make 300 grand. And then you're in a position where it's like, you're not stretching yourself too thin. So that to me was the biggest implementation that I made, is making sure my expenses were at this point where I felt comfortable.
Ryan, at what point do you think you'll kind of walk away from the W-2, and what steps are you taking to prepare for that?
I'm not 100% sure. We have benchmarks. I think once we hit them in our business, and I think it's more of, it's interesting. It's the recurring revenue. Once it hits a certain point where everything's covered, right? Whether it's like our ad expenses, employees, all of the above. Once those are covered, it'll be an easier decision. So I think there's just the steps taking is like really trying to amplify and nail down our processes and like who we are as like ambassadors of the business. So Cory mentioned something to the effect of the visionary and the integrator, and like finding our roles, right? And like he's really the front facing guy of the business. I'm the back end guy doing a lot of the systems and operations. But with that, there's a lot of pivoting and change that happens. And what we found is like the biggest struggle is there's never going to be a perfect time, is basically what I'm getting at, because the world changes so fast. Every algorithm for every social media account, all these things is rapidly changing the world with AI. It's like, dude, I could think one thing and in 6 months, the world looks completely different. So I think that it kind of goes back to Cory. He just like at one point, I think he had enough was enough. He had the money in the bank. He said, dude, the time's now. Like, I'm just doing this. I'm not getting any younger, So I think there'll be a day and a time that hits. The hard part for me is like, it's a very much like a family decision. I'm living this now. It's like, it's me making this leap. It's trickles down and impacts my dependent and my wife and all these things. And so, when I'm more of a conservative type, but when I know the time is right, the time is right. Now I don't think there's like a secret sauce to this answer, because we're at this net worth amount of $1 million, and you'd think anyone would feel natural to be like, dude, F it, let's burn the boats and go. Like, what are we doing? But there's more to it. A lot of stuff's in the ground. It's like, once that cash flow number hits that certain amount that I need, I think will be the time. But I think to prepare myself to your question, I think that's probably the hardest thing. It's the mental battle of saying, hey, like, listen, when we do this, there's no turning back at all. And it's not like, hey, if this doesn't work out, I'm going to get another job. It's like, no, we're just gonna figure it out. We're gonna make it work. And I think that's where Cory's at right now with his mindset. And so how can I, while I still have this income coming in, get myself to the best version of myself to be ready to take the leap, and meaning like to plug it into the business. Like, we have the business kind of, we're getting to the point where it can run on autopilot. We just have to put the right butts in the right seats, but you have to have the right income coming in to put the right butts in the right seats. So once the system's in full flow, I think we'll be ready to go. But I think right now I'm not at a point where it makes sense. So I don't know if I'm like beating around the bush there, but that's kind of where my brain's at exactly right now, is like still ironing out the details. I don't have a final answer for that.
No, I appreciate you sharing, and I hear you when you have some of these major life decisions that they aren't so much your own anymore. Because I get that. I got 5 kids myself and a wife, and sometimes it's like, I made this decision and I think she'll go with it, but it's still like you gotta get clearance or whatever. So
100%.
that's
I want to
awesome.
add something there, Jace, like something
Yeah,
about
yeah.
the You know, it's funny, like the thought process of when you hit the $1 million, like, hey, I'm a $1 million net worth. Like, you know, I think that there's this like false summit a little bit. And I've explained this on a couple like podcasts that we've been on. It's like when you hit this $1 million net worth, like, are things going to be like drastically better? And is your life going to be like drastically improved? And are you going to like walk with this sense of new purpose? And how, I know America is printing a lot of money. I know things are changing, and being a millionaire in 2025 is not being a millionaire in 1995. It just isn't the same anymore. And I have found that there's always just this new goal and this new thing to chase. However, that being said, we always say that first 100 grand is actually the hardest. And the time that it took me to get to 100 grand in net worth was, I mean, I guess if you're counting since I was born, right, it was like 28 years of my life, right? And maybe since working, it was like, you know, 10 years, right? And then to get from 100K to a million was like 6 years, right? And then now maybe million to 2 million is going to be 5, right? And it gets easier. However, there wasn't this like moment where we were like, oh man, like we became millionaires. Like this is it. Like we made it. And I think that maybe that's like my biggest surprise, leaving the job, becoming a quote unquote millionaire. It even sounds funny for me to say because nothing has really shifted or changed too much in my life, except for the fact that I know my money's in the right buckets and it's growing. And then my future is really, really set up. And it's kind of weird to even talk about, but that's like how I feel.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on that too, dude. It's like I remember working in corporate and you finally get to your six-figure mark, right? And you're like, dude, I'm going to be rich. Making 100 grand this year, that's insane. Like I never thought I would get to that amount. And then you realize how expensive the world gets and just like the purchasing power of your dollar just continues to go down every year. And so we're hedging that with real estate, with Bitcoin, with all some other things, right? But at what point do you start living off the money? Like to Corey's point here, it's like we hit that $1 million mark and it's almost like I thought we'd have this big celebration. I'd throw a party or something. I don't know, when I was younger. Then you're just like, yeah, dude, nice. Like we got there. I'm like, that sucks. And it's one of those things where I don't know if it's because a lot of it is like it built in equity to properties, right? And it's just like stuck in the dirt. It's not as sexy as I thought it would be, like staring at it in my bank account, you know? And even if that, it's like it gives you a sense of security, but what are you doing with that? And like I'm talking about, like you need to be utilizing that to chase experiences and live your life. I think a lot of us, we're chasing to see a number and then to feel secure. But like, are you going to do the things that you wanted to do with the money? And I think one of the big things Corey and I discussed when he was like really debating jumping to the business full time, leaving his job, is like, I'm at this point where I'm not growing in my W-2. I'm not excited to be there all the time. There's just like, there's a lot of things, right? And to make less money on paper from the current job, but to have a lifestyle that you could live and be able to be a digital nomad and work from anywhere in the world and like go hang out in his property in Tampa and work by the pool and like hop on some podcasts and like educate and run the business. That's way sexier than 200 grand coming into your bank account and just being able to do what you want when you want. It's just a different feel. Corey, you probably have a ton of thoughts here, but I've been like, I watched a couple, it popped up today on Instagram. I was going through and a gentleman we follow, he just quit like a $250,000 W-2 and he's making 60 grand this year or 70 grand. And he's like, dude, the amount of peace in my mind right now to be able to make my decisions when I want, have my own schedule and not have to feel this burnout cycle and this chase. He's like, I rather have the fear of not making enough money this month than have to go feel trapped every single day to something that I absolutely hate. And so I think that's where a lot of people are really stuck. And when they start resenting their job and resenting the world and the matrix, if you will, they're like, there's got to be a better way. And I think some people will take a huge step back dollar wise to take a huge step forward in freedom.
Perfectly said.
Do y'all have like a target net worth or doors or cash flow that you're looking for on the piggyback of all those comments?
It's a good question. I would say this. I don't, we've met through our podcast, we've met people, deca millionaires, people worth over $100 million. I think we've interviewed a couple billionaires. They've been secretive about it. But, I've noticed is that life becomes like the most important thing. Life, family, freedom, like all those things become the most important thing at a certain point for everyone. So my thing is, I'm not chasing a specific dollar amount. I've never wanted to put that all on myself because I know getting to 100K net worth, getting to 500K net worth, getting to $1 million net worth, that it doesn't change my happiness level. What it does, it allows me to breathe easier and think, wow, my money really truly is working for me now. Like now I can put gas on the fire. And now at $1 million going up 5% a year, that's $50,000 a year without me even doing anything else or adding anything else into it. So my thought process is that $10 million number in terms of net worth has always come into my head. And for what reason, Jace, I don't even know. Like, I don't even know why I would be chasing it, but I've thought, could I provide for my family and a generation before me and have enough without giving it to people, but to really be able to help them should they need it, or even help my parents? I've thought about that as like, my parents are in a situation where my father's trying to retire. And that's my biggest goal, is to try to help him at 68 years old ride off into the sunset with my mom and retire, rather than getting myself personally to a specific number. But if you're asking the question and you want an answer, that 10 million has like popped into my head, is like, would I need any more money than that, especially if my money's working for me? I don't think that I would. And that's kind of where I've landed.
Yeah, Corey and I have talked about this a lot, and it's so funny. It just changes, and Jason, you probably understand this too, going through the game, man. Like you have this net worth number that you're chasing. You're like, but what's it for? Like, why did I pick that number? So we picked that 10 million bucks, and I think that I'll stick to that for now. But I know people worth 10 plus million, and they're still watching the stock market every day. They're still like just checking in on their real estate investments, and like they're living, but it's like they're not using all the cash to change their life and drastically change it and go do all the amazing things. Like, you could do anything you want, dude. What are you doing? And then they're like, I see other people that, maybe they leave a corporate role that they've been working forever, and then their identity's gone. And they're like, oh my God, I'm struggling so much. What do I do every day? And for us, I think we've kind of pivoted all these learnings into building our community, where it's like, at the end of the day, I just want to be able to impact as many people as I possibly can, but also be around the coolest people ever. If we're all chasing the same thing, trying to build wealth, I'm naturally going to grow and get better. And that's like one topic that I just personally love. And the hard part is avoiding shiny object syndrome, because then everyone has an amazing story and they've leaned into something specific and they're proficient at it. And you're like, well, maybe I try that. So it's learning how to say no. I think the wealthiest people in the world are amazing at saying no, and they stick to their lane. But then there's also building a sense of community, and social media can do that. There's also other platforms, but finding your tribe, that's what really motivates us to be able to impact others and have others impact us, and like really move the whole ship forward together. I'm dialed in more so now than I ever have about my relationships, and like trying to figure out who I want to spend my time with, doing what I want when I want. And if the dollar figure allows me to do that, then I'm in a great spot. I think, there's my next chase, right, is like, after the W2 world, is like, I just want to be able to do and focus on just exactly what I want to do every day. And so that's it started with, on the net worth journey, I'll start here, is like, I needed to get my system dialed in before I could even think about becoming a millionaire, right? And that was like automatic investments, setting my financial foundation, living frugally, not frugally, but like below my means. So that way, I wasn't overextending, paid off cars, all these things, the basics that Corey said. And then when new income came in, I had a system that I could weave this into. I knew my 401k was covered. I knew my Roth IRA was covered. My brokerage. I specifically studied, learned exactly what to put the money in. And then cryptocurrency came up. I studied, learned. Okay, so now all my new money that comes in, whether it's from the W2, whether it's from real estate, whether it's from our educational platform, wherever it's coming in, I siphon it out and I don't have to think about it anymore, which is the best part. And I think that comes down to the next level of business too, which that's what I'm chasing right now, is like, okay, how do we have our system so dialed in that when we run ads or when we put money into the business, it all flows into the right bucket, and then we can let other people run the ship. And I think the next journey, or next iteration of the journey for Corey and I, is like extracting ourselves from the business, so we work on the business, not in the day-to-day cycle all the time. That allows us to be anywhere we want, and we have the leaders in place to run it proficiently, successfully for us. And then we pull out what we need to live off of it, but really just so it's not for this super lavish lifestyle. I think we're not chasing the Bugattis and all that stuff. Yeah, I'd love a Lamborghini. Yeah, I want the big house and a pool, but like, I don't need for much, man. Like, there's really, as long as my people are taken care of, I think my world has changed a lot more since I had my daughter. And I was chasing this like lone wolf lifestyle of like, penthouse or whatever, like car, all the stuff, maybe not penthouse, whatever. Then you have a child, and you've had 5. So I just, every day I could do nothing, dude, and just look at her, and we could just be going watching a Disney movie. We could go walk in the park. It's a lot of work, but those little moments, I'm trying to savor every second I can, because I know you can't get them back. And it's something money cannot buy. I don't think there's anything that exciting that I've ever done that has topped, you know, spending time with her and doing and watching her experience the world. So cool. Like even us we're going to Disney at the end of the month, and we went last year. And I'm like, dude, I will do this every single year, not for me, but just to watch her and have this excitement. And so I'm chasing the excitement in life versus, hey, I need 20, 30 million bucks in a bank account that's just sitting there to make me feel protected and potentially help, you know, air quotes, help the next generation. If I can pay for my trips, my vacations to have my family with me, if I can foot the bill for everything, if I can do this, like that will, I want to feel like the alpha leader of the family, that I can help in any way, and that can lean on me and they don't have to feel any sense of guilt. It's just like, let's just do what we want to do and enjoy this time that we have here on this earth, because it's all finite. So I know that was a lot there, but that's just kind of where my brain's been going lately.
No, that's awesome. I appreciate you all sharing all that. So let's wrap up with some rapid fire questions. What's the most expensive pair of shoes or pants that you purchased?
Most expensive pair of shoes or pants? Probably $250. I have like really nice, like I'm a big sneakers guy, so I'll wear like white sneakers or like black sneakers or brown sneakers to weddings. So they're so yeah, 250. Pants, maybe a suit pants, maybe like 300. Nothing crazy.
Yeah, dude, that's a good one. I think I had one in the peak of LeBron. I think I bought the $250 pair of LeBrons. I still have 'em. I bought them in 3 colors, so I spent $750. So there you go. And then I think probably a suit, most expensive, dude, $1,000 on a suit. Not I was kind of forced into it. It was for a wedding, and I was like, I'm not just gonna cheap out and look dumb. So I got an expensive one. Pair of pants, dude. You can catch me in some maybe like $50 jeans, dude. I don't know. I love the Lululemon. Those are
Yeah, those
126
are like
bucks.
120, 130.
Oh, there you go. Those are probably the most expensive. 126. The ABC pants, Lululemon. I live by those. I also have a pair of black Lululemon shorts for every day of the week, because I'm a simplified wardrobe guy. I think it was Steve Jobs who said he likes to wear the same thing every day so he doesn't have to think. Like I just like the black t-shirt, the black shorts, pair of J's, and call it a day, dude. I don't want to overthink my outfits. My wife kind of gets on me for it, but I have a strategy there.
This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Preseason football is underway. College football is back. And if you're like me, you don't want to miss a minute of the action this year. I've been checking out Prize Picks, and honestly, it's one of the easiest and most fun ways to play daily fantasy. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, guys like Saquon Barkley, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, or Aaron Rodgers. And if you're right, you can win big. I love how simple it is to get a lineup in. It takes less than a minute. And the flex play means you can still cash out even if one pick doesn't hit. Prize Picks is available in more than 40 states, including Texas, California, Florida, and Georgia. Deposits are quick and easy with Apple Pay, Venmo, MasterCard, and more. And withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Plus, it's built for fans like us. You can turn your football opinions into real prizes all season long. So here's how to get started. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code MILLIONAIRE to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code MILLIONAIRE, MILLIONAIRE, for $50 in lineups after your first $5 entry. Prize Picks, run your game. And thanks to Prize Picks for supporting today's episode.
Nice. What about the most expensive meal out?
This is a good one. This is actually kind of I'll keep it short. Funny story. I went out for anniversary last year. Me and my now fiance. It was just like our 2 or 3 year. In Philadelphia, we went to this place, a Vetri Cucina. It was like probably $800 total, but it was my like the guy came over, he was like, he's like, you want to get this bottle of wine? He basically like sold it to me, and I had no idea the bottle of wine was $300. I was like, that sounds good. So it would have been like 500, but it was like 800, and that's for 2 people. So that but like that was worth every single penny. It was one of the best restaurants in Philly. So probably around 800.
Yeah, I think he's got me beat on that one, dude. I don't know. I can't.
That was a lot. Yeah.
I think the most expensive is, and it actually is funny. It's like probably back in the day when I was in college and I was trying to impress my now wife, and I took her out to Valentine's Day. Didn't realize it was a fixed menu. Ended up spending like $450, and I had $455 in my bank account at the time. And so I just squeaked by, almost had to call dad. So it worked out. But I think about it. We actually had the conversation this weekend. It was like the top of the nicest hotel in Center City. And I wanted her to like me, dude. And
Dude, it
she
works.
stuck,
Maybe
she
that
stuck
was the
around.
best investment you ever made. Forget the real estate.
Facts, 100%.
That's awesome. What about the most expensive vacation or experience?
That's a good question. I think mine's coming up because I'm getting married in a year. So my honeymoon will be for sure. I'm already like, she's in charge of the wedding. I'm in charge of the honeymoon, right? So if she was in charge of the honeymoon, it would be probably cost more than the wedding. So that, and then let me think. The most expensive. That's a great question. Probably traveled to like St. John, maybe like $4,000 or so in like an island. That would be like maybe the most expensive. There's probably other places I'd think of, but like something that's like not an all inclusive that's on an island. That catch me there in the warmth. I'm not going anywhere cold, so that would be it.
Yeah, I think I got him top tier. I think I spent 15 to Greece. This was my engagement trip. We were there for like 10 days. It's between 10 and 15. I don't know the exact amount. Best, hands down, best trip of my life. Don't regret it at all. Don't miss the money. It was unbelievable.
Oh, actually, I got another one. If any golfers out there, I went to Bandon Dunes. That was more. That was like $6,000. So, that was a trip actually recently. But I got to play some of the best golf ever. So that was worth it. But Rise definitely got me beat on that.
Nice. What about the most expensive car or toy?
This is actually like a kind of an origin story for Ryan and I. It's funny. Ryan, when we first came out of college, we thought we were cool. Turns out we weren't. But I bought a Mercedes and Ryan bought, I believe, a Challenger, right? So and like when I was 23. Now I bought, it was like 2015 and I think I bought it 2012. So it was 3 years old. So we probably both spent 30 to 40 grand on cars right out of school, thinking like that was what made us cool. And then since after that, a couple years later, we sold them and bought cars that were less expensive and then paid them off and still drive the paid off cars. So we've spent, 30 to 40 probably each on the Mercedes and the Challenger. And then like, we want to get back to that point, but that was it's just funny. We did it backwards.
That would be like spending 50 grand a day, dude. If you look at the price of cars and interest rates and stuff. But yeah, we wanted to look rich, right? And we were like, we felt like we were cool. We saw all the, I don't know, people in the music videos and shit driving all the nice cars. I just had a car that I wanted forever. And I kept seeing it drive. I'm like, dude, that's my car. I need the Batmobile. 100% have to have it. And as soon as I had could just afford the monthly payment on it, I was like, dude, I'm doing it. And so I did it. And it was like, I think it was like, 35,000. And that was 15 years ago almost.
How'd you make your first buck?
First dollar?
That's a great question.
Yep.
Okay. How did I make my first dollar? So that is such a good question. My first job ever, I was like a host at a restaurant. So that was my first dollar, but I made like my first few dollars. I'm a basketball coach by heart. So right out of, I was a counselor at 76ers basketball camps. Like I ran the dining hall. I was a counselor at like 15, 16, 17. So I was making a whopping, $300 a week or something like that. That was my first experience.
Dude, mine's like yours, like checks out. They kind of like go into flow. Like mine are so random and weird. Like originally it was babysitting and then it was landscaping. And after landscaping, it was, I was a golf caddy. Then I did golf maintenance. Then I ran my own landscaping business. And like also once worked at a bread and breakfast, like turning over sheets and like painting, like their handyman. So I've done a lot of like weird manual labor, like I don't know, and out of high school kind of gigs, but yeah, man, I guess I was you could say landscaping.
Ryan, maybe you gave us the answer on this, but what's the craziest thing you've ever done to earn money?
That's interesting. Craziest thing yeah, I think truly, like if I think about it, it was like folding bed sheets and like I was, teach their own, but I just, my mom basically was like, "You're getting a job, dude." And it's funny. My dad had his own construction company. I wasn't allowed to go work with him. He had the big machines and all this stuff. And she's like, they were like teaching me how the value of a dollar and like go work. My mom picked me up. We jumped in the car with my mom and we drove down the main street in our town. And I had to go into every single store and ask if they were hiring, getting paper. It didn't matter. She's like, "You're getting a job." Like, it wasn't even like, "Hey, does this one sound interesting?" It's like asking everyone. One was a bookstore. One was a little cottage. One was a restaurant, all these things. The little cottage, it was like an older woman that owned it. And she's like, she had all females that worked for her. And like, was this like lacrosse player with the long curly hair. And she's just like, she's like, ooh, like, I think the girls would like you here. And so like literally it was the funniest thing. I'm like, this is really weird. I was super shy at the time and I was like, my mom's making me get a job, but like I need it. So I was like, okay, yeah, can I have the application? At first, she started me out as the pool boy, just literally skimming the pool. And then I was folding sheets with the ladies. And then she would just find, I felt like she was like making jobs for me. Like this lady, she was like, there'd be like one tiny little thing that needed to be painted. I go paint that. I would mow the lawn. So basically, I was like upkeeping an inn for the longest time. And, it's funny, like my brothers ended up following suit there. Like after years, she would make them go work at the same place. So, yeah, I don't really know what you would constitute that as like a bread and breakfast, pool boy or like, I don't know, towel holder.
It's gonna be the title of this episode right there. Cory, what about you?
So in between when I was like 15, when I said I started working as a camp counselor, they couldn't really hire me as a camp counselor until I was technically, I think, 17. So when I was 15, what I would do is I ran the dining hall. So I would literally like take paper plates and separate them and like set the table, and like I'd like pour the punch, and like I'd manage the dining hall, right? And I'd like make sure that the this was at like a camp in the Pocono Mountains when the 76ers used to run their camps up there. So it was very like cabin. I would clean cabins and clean bunks, and like I would do all the grunt work and dirty work. If there was ever anything, if a basketball went in the lake, I would be the one getting in the canoe and rowing out to the lake and going and grabbing the ball and coming back. So I did like a kind of like Rye, like a jack of all trades at Sixers camps when I was like 15. And the camp counselors felt so bad because I was getting paid $300 a week that they all put in a couple dollars of their paycheck at the end of each week, and they would give me an envelope of like an extra $150 because I was running around and and doing all the crazy I didn't want to do. So that's it's a simpler time. Part of me wishes I could go back to that, but it was a lot of fun. Didn't make much money, but it was a lot of fun.
What's a closely held belief that you once had that you recently changed your mind on?
Wow. Closely held belief once had that I recently changed my mind on.
This is an interesting one, dude. And it's not, I'm just going to say it. So, and try to explain myself. I think there's the phrase, right? Like money can't buy happiness. And for the longest time, I did believe that. I was like, dude, yep, I 100% agree with that. I can't be bought out. But I just think money does provide optionality for you to, if used strategically, to live your best life in a lot of ways. You can become healthier. You can eat the right things. You can spend your time doing what you want when you want. And now the chase for it is hard, right? I think there's a lot of soul sucking things out there. But I recently changed my belief on, like, I think just in general, money can provide much more for you than it, because the world revolves around it, than you not having it. And I think a lot of people try to fight that, and they're like, listen, like, F the system, I'm not going to go do XYZ because I just don't believe in the system, blah blah blah. And then they're living these lives where they're just scraping by, and it's not a happy life for a lot of them. They can't eat the right things, they can't travel, they can't provide for a family, they can't have a home, like all these things. And just, I think happiness gets sucked away. And I wish there was, I'm not trying to be this like greedy guy saying, hey, money's everything, because it's not. And I don't believe that money can 100% give you happiness, but I think it can give you optionality. And I think a lot more people need to educate themselves earlier, because that's what we kind of had to force ourselves to do. I thought I would learn all this stuff in college, and like how to write a check, how to actually balance my bank accounts, how to, invest and all these things. And it just wasn't taught. We had to self-educate. So, more recently I've thought about that, and I had changed my mind at one point, and I was like, listen, money's not the cure for everything. And like, and it's not, but I do think it's one of those things. It's like really try not to fight it so much so that you just end up in this loop of doing nothing.
I would say this, that I think that, you know, growing up, I feel like I wanted to always maybe like present myself in a certain way to people, and like thought that they would be concerned about, I guess, caring what people thought about me and how I like portrayed myself to the world. And then a belief that I realized recently is that no one actually cares what what you are doing, as long as they care how you make them feel. So for me, it's like, I'm not really too concerned about like the opinions of other people, because I keep promises that I make to myself, and I like build up this true self-love that like I love myself, and like I love the people around me, and people around me know my intentions. And you can go out there and make a fool of yourself in terms of like, you could embarrass yourself, but people don't actually really care. That's all stuck in between your ears. Like they don't really actually care what you do. So I mean, that kind of, I didn't exactly explain that super well, but it's just that like people have so many of their own problems going on that like they're really concerned about themselves and not what you're doing. So don't think about everyone's thinking about you all the time, because you're the one thinking about you. So that's kind of a belief that's changed for me.
I just want to jump in real quick here, and you could decide which one you want to use, because I think this one's a little bit more clear, and this is a recent one. It's like the thought of, I have more time, or I'll do that next week, or I can do that at this point. I think I've learned recently, there's been, over the last year, there's been some loss in my family, and you know, everyone has a plan, right? And everyone has goals and like things they want to do in their life. And that can be cut so short, whether that's someone passing away, someone getting sick, and like, you know, just not being able to do the things you want to do, or the things that you think you're going to be able to do the next week. And so what we found is, after interviewing, I don't know, 300 plus successful entrepreneurs and millionaires similar to you, is like, when they get information and they are presented something, they are the most successful we found are the ones that make very quick decisions and take action immediately. And so Cory and I, over the last year, have taken this very much to heart, and just like, if we have an idea or something, we just try to implement it right away, because the thought's fleeting, it's going to go away, and we might not have the chance to ever do it again. And so I think that's why we've leaned so heavily into the business. And that maybe was another decision why he left the job, you know, in ended last year. It's like, there's no better time. I know at 100% for certain I will die at some point. I don't know when it is. I don't know how it's going to happen. I got to take a shot. And so, you know, that's something that I always just was like, you can put things off. I can do this at this point. You're going to lack the motivation in the future. The opportunity might not be there, or the world could just be in a completely different spot, and you have not the ability to do that. So, you know, that's one answer I just wanted to add back in there.
That's awesome. Any last words of advice for those who are just starting on their journey?
I would say that doing something for a period of like 3 to 5 years is really going to give you like how it needs to be done. So what I'm saying in short is that if you do try something for 6 months and it doesn't work, then you didn't give it enough time. If you try something for a year and it doesn't work, you probably didn't give it enough time, especially when it comes to something that we're talking about here, like becoming a millionaire and compounding your wealth. The wealth doesn't compound, doesn't seem like it's doing a lot when it's $10,000 or $50,000 or $80,000. But that's the eighth wonder of the world, is that the more you do it and the more consistent you get, the better returns and the more freedom that allows you to do, like allows you to spend time doing. So I would say that do something for 3 to 5 years, give yourself that runway, something that lights you up, something that makes you happy, something that, you know, provides some sort of level of passion. If you can do that, but not shortcut it and say, hey, I tried something for 3 months, it didn't work. Well, it's not going to work. So that would be my parting advice, is that Ryan and I have been doing our podcast, Investing in Real Estate, for, you know, going on 7 years now. And honestly, in the last year or two, the fruits of our labor really started to show. Prior to that, it was kind of our own little hamster wheel, but we knew that there was an end in sight, and now it's starting to get more enjoyable and, you know, have more freedom to it.
Yeah. And for me, it's surround yourself with people that are doing what you want to do, and they've already done it at a very high level. And I think that's a basic thing to say, but I think a lot of people will listen to the podcasts, they'll read the books, and they get all excited, right? And then they try to take action, but they're not really sure exactly how to do it. And they try a little bit, and then they're like, I'll just go back and do what I've been doing and go to my job. And what we found is, the more we've invested in ourselves by like joining mentorship groups and coaching, if you will, and also just quite honestly putting out the podcast and forcing ourselves to interview people that are much better than us at the thing that we are looking to do, they've just given us so much wisdom. And you find a lot of times people have their hand reaching down, and they pull you up to their level. And if you're surrounded by people that are doing what you want to do and have the dream, the aspiration, right? You want to become a millionaire? Okay, so you need to surround yourself with a ton of millionaires, right? And then figure out how they got there, and you implement some of their strategies and systems and implement and put them into your life. Now, you can do that through listening to podcasts, but to take it to the next level, it's like, how do you get handheld to your first deal? Or how do you get handheld to this level of financial freedom? How do you get handheld to starting this business? Like, whatever you want to do, right? And it's paying for that. People are too scared to pay for that. And for us, like Cory and I have invested well over 6 figures in mentorship. And that's what's allowed us to get to the next level. We get into rooms with bigger people, and they're like, these are the mistakes. They're mistakes or excuse me, their problems are so much bigger than our problems. And something that seems so big to us is tiny to them. And that just makes us feel so much better. Like, oh, that's it. Like you get out of your head. And so I just want to kind of debunk that. There's a lot of people that, they'll say like, I'll start at some point, or they're like, hey, I don't know what to do now. It's like, who do you want to be like? And if you hear that person on a podcast, reach out to them, DM them, or find their assistant and get on their calendar and like try to provide as much value as you possibly can to them. And if you're like, well, I don't know what type of value I could provide, you got to read between the lines and listen, like actively listen to what they're saying, whether it's on their podcast or through their social media, and find a little gap, whether it's in their business, their personal life, and how can you put yourself in there for free and just provide that natural value, camaraderie, etc. And there's a lot there. We could do a whole episode on there. But one thing that kind of shortened our time horizon to get to where we want to get to is like, there's no doubt in my mind we've become millionaires because we have surrounded ourselves with millionaires, and they have shown us the way. And we have just taken little pieces of their picture and put the little puzzle pieces together for ourselves, and we're just taking the stepping stones, to get to the next level, to the 10 million, right? So that's what I want to leave everybody with is don't be afraid to invest in yourself. It's not always investing in the stock market, crypto, real estate. You need to put some dough back into what you want to do and your skill sets. And you're the greatest asset that you could ever invest in. And yeah, I'll leave you with that.
Where y'all hanging out nowadays? Where can people find you?
So our biggest platform, Jace, is Instagram, and Ryan and I have a shared Instagram account at Wealth Juice Official on Instagram. We post every single day, and you'll see we talk about personal finance, real estate investing, entrepreneurship, but most importantly, how to get that first deal done, because real estate changed our lives. So if you want to learn how to get your first deal done, you maybe have some cash saved up, you're ready to go, but you just need that final push, that step. Follow us on Instagram at Wealth Juice Official. We also have the Wealth Juice podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, where we interview highly successful entrepreneurs that are showing us the way and sharing our journey along the way too, of how we got to this point. We've been doing it for 6 years, but Instagram's where we're the most active. If you want to touch base with us, shoot us a DM. We'd love to connect. And especially if you're looking to get that first deal done, we have a mentorship and community where we'll teach you exactly the steps A to Z, how to do it and how we did it and how you can grow from there.
Awesome. That's Cory and Ryan with a net worth, newly minted millionaires, just over 1 million. Thanks for on the show today.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast with Jace Mattinson. For more stories, investment opportunities, and information, check out our website, millionairesunveiled.com. See you next time when you'll hear from another everyday millionaire.